Welcome to another episode of the Geekorama podcast. We are produced by superherofiction.com, the one-stop shop for all your superhero novel needs. We are your hosts.
I'm Jeremy Flagg, author of the Children of Notre Dame universe.
And I am T.L. Heinrich, author of the Vigilantes universe. And today we have something very exciting to talk about. Do you want to introduce it?
So today we're actually going to be looking at movies, but not big blockbuster movies. We are looking at small, independent, a couple fan-made movies. We're looking at an indie short film, and we are even looking at a superhero-inspired superhero music video of all random things. So we decided to go from big movies to smaller movies to smaller movies to smaller movies to really 4-minute long movie.
Yeah.
Actually, one of them is only 2.5 minutes. So.
Oh yeah, the Wonder Woman one.
Yeah.
That's a real short one.
We'll be talking about all of those, but before we get started, I'm kind of really excited for the pop culture trivia today.
All right, we have a good one. So today we are going to talk about the very first Comic-Con. Now, this is not a Star Trek convention. Star Trek conventions and comic conventions, they kind of melded into somewhat the same thing nowadays. When we think of a comic convention or a fan convention, it really runs the gamut. But back when these conventions first started to form, they were very hyper focused. So you had your Star Trek conventions that I think started in the early to mid 70s. And you had your science fiction conventions, and you also had your comic book conventions. And today we're going to be talking about specifically the very first Comic-Con. And that one was held on July 27th, 1964 in New York City. Yes, the New York Comic-Con is the granddaddy of all Comic-Cons. This was really the first known event for comic book fans. It was a total of 56 people attended, including a 15-year-old George R.R. Martin, who really should have been at home writing, because by now we would have had a finished series of Game of Thrones. But I digress.
So true.
It was a really tiny thing. It was somewhat well advertised. The guy that Bernie Bubness, I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. I feel really bad. Is the one that really put the whole thing together, and he had very high aspirations. You know, he was going to have all these really kind of famous comic book artists and writers and everything like that. But it was just a very, very small convention, under 100 people. And he opened the convention in 1964 in New York. And the very first guest was Dave Twent. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And it was he was somebody that worked at Marvel. He was talking about Marvel comics and storylines that were coming up. He, was geeking out with fans about Sergeant Fury and the Fantastic Four. And sometime during his presentation, Steve Ditko entered the room and just kind of sat in the back. Now, Bernie had been trying really hard to get Steve Ditko to commit to showing up. And the most that he could get out of Ditko was that, yeah, I'll show up at some point. So he did. He showed up. And later on, he didn't really speak or anything like that, but he went and met fans. He signed things. He even drew images of Spider-Man for covers of fanzines. And this was the only convention that Ditko ever appeared at, was this tiny, very first New York Comic-Con. The Comic-Con lasted 5 hours, and fans went home. So it was like a single day. There were some artists there. There were a couple of other speakers, and it was really more about fans getting together and being a community together. Because this is pre-internet. You don't really have the ability to connect with other fans in a wide spectrum. so there was a lot of people with their fanzines that were there, exchanging stuff, exchanging phone numbers, that kind of thing. But it became an annual event after that, and really the framework that Bernie Bubness came up with really became the framework for all future Comic Cons. You have speakers, you have chances to meet artists, you have chances to get autographs, you fans get together and they talk about their fandoms, and so all those elements were very much there in this first Comic Con in New York. And that's your pop culture history.
So we have Boston Comic Con here, which is now no longer a Comic Con, and it's extremely depressing as far as I'm concerned.
That's too bad.
One of the last years that Boston Comic Con existed as Boston Comic Con was the year that Stan Lee went. And the lines were miles long to get in.
I bet.
It was out of control. And so it's what you would expect of a Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. And then Fan Expo took over. And Fan Expo is taking over the majority of them at this point. And I went with a friend of mine who's an artist. We were scouting it. We were thinking about doing a table there. And there were no comic books. The entire thing, there was exactly one panel held by DC of the people that showed up for it were like, the intern of the producer of a comic type.
Oh no.
And it was a memorial for someone who had died in the comic industry. I can't remember who. And then the rest of it, wow. It was buying crappy t-shirts, or it was really good for going to see local comic artists. Like that was kind of cool. That's where I got my cover artists for my books. But nothing. The only actual comic book company that was there was the comic grading company that does the authenticity of comics and the quality.
Yeah.
They were there, and you could buy comics from some of the vendors, but like the vendor, most of them, almost everything there was knockoff t-shirts, unlicensed stuff. That's
sketchy.
It felt so amateur hour.
Yeah.
And then about 25% of the booths were empty.
That is so weird.
You should not be impressed with LASIK eye surgery's booth at a Comic-Con.
No, that's a problem. That is definitely a problem.
They had the best booth there. I mean, it had like geek speed dating, which, okay, that's funny. But that was the only panel thing happening.
Weird. That is so weird.
I have, in the Northeast, everyone's been saying this. All comic book conventions have turned into flea markets. Or they've turned into fan cons, which isn't bad, but, I think all fans should get along with everybody, but I'm there for superheroes, and there's nothing for superheroes. Like,
yeah,
I feel like, hey, we kind of started this. Like, I don't need ownership or anything, but representation, please.
Yeah, just something. I mean, and I heard friends of friends of the guy that started Emerald City Comic Con. And I mean, of course, that got humongous up here in Seattle. And I believe the guys, whatever company runs San Diego and whatnot, they bought out the people, or they partnered with the people that run Emerald City. And the year after that happened, I heard somewhat similar things where it was like, well, the charm is gone. And part of that was because it had gotten so huge. Like, it grew really fast and it got super big. But also people were like, it used to be about local artists. It used to be about local authors, and they really got pushed out in favor of bigger names, which, I mean, it's a business. You want to grow it. You want to get people in there. But if a convention is something special to the place it's hosted at, because it has somewhat of a local flair about it, and you take that out, that's really sad.
So we also have PAX East in Boston, and
PAX is fucking crazy.
So our PAX East, like, I don't know what West Coast looks like. Like, if you're
it's huge, it's huge.
PAX East is what I think a convention should be. The floor is literally batshit bonkers of, I don't even know where, like, it's sensory over.
Yeah.
Like, I freaked out when I.
Oh, it is. It is, absolutely, yeah.
In ours, in the middle is where the function hall is, and then it's all around the outside are small little event halls. Some of them,
okay.
200 people, some like 50 people, and every one of them had something. Like, I went to the Penny Arcade and I got to listen to like an 8-bit DJ who was having a rave. It was awesome. Cards Against Humanity were there, and they were playing Cards Against Humanity, but with like 3-foot tall cards.
Oh my God.
It was weird, and it was amazing. And so that was my first experience, other than doing like small local cons. And then I went to Boston Comic Con, and I was like, oh, it's going to be, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
no, our PAX takes up, so we have a convention center, and the main part of the convention center is like 3 floors. So it'll take up that, and then it takes up the overflow across the street. And then it also took up another building like half a block away. And then it took up, there were meeting rooms in one of the hotels near there. So there's like 4 buildings that are full to the brim for PAX. And one of them, where it's got all like the video games and stuff, that was the most single overwhelming thing I've ever experienced, but it was also just like glorious. It was just, it was amazing.
So I remember the first year I went, it was Skyrim was being released the next year.
Oh.
And so a corner of the hall was dedicated to Skyrim, and they had set it up so it was like a museum after Skyrim. So you could walk through, and they had all the artifacts that you would get in the game. And it was just amazing. Like, I went and bought the game just because of the exhibit. Like, I'm not even.
And they did their job then, actually. Like, that was the goal.
Whereas the Comic-Con, I walked in and I was like, nothing about this makes me want to love comics anymore. Like, and if you steal that magic, then.
Yeah. So we have another convention called Geekorama. So Emerald City is in the spring. Geekorama is usually in the fall. And Geekorama is the one that I love. It's the one I go to every year. I bring my kids. And it started off super, super small. It was several different small buildings in Seattle. And it has grown to take up, the smaller building of our convention center. But it takes up all 3 of those floors, and it's grown every year, but it's growing kind of small. It builds itself really as more of a family-friendly convention. It's got a DIY science area for kids to go and do like hands-on science experiments and touch bugs and learn about physics. And it's glorious. Half the time I can't get my kids out of there. There's game rooms, and they are all very family friendly. Like, all the panels before 5 o'clock, you have to make sure that you're PG.
Yep.
And it's a small convention comparatively to like Emerald City, but it is so amazing. The energy in there, the cosplay, the geeks, the panels that are wide ranging. You go into the vendors hall, and there's everything from independent comic creators to t-shirt vendors to jewelry stands. I mean, there's everything in here. And I kind of feel like that's what Emerald City used to be, it was kind of a place for all geeks to be. And it had this beautiful energy about it. It didn't take itself too seriously, you know, and I feel like that's like, if you're going to be on the smaller side, make sure you've got something kind of like that, where you still have that geek community energy.
We have Anime Boston, which started as part of a literary group and then broke off because just difference of philosophy, not bad, just different. And Anime Boston is, those people are crazy, and it's awesome. It's fun. That's where you'll see like the bronies show up in force. It's like a cheerleading squad of bronies.
That is awesome.
You walk around and you're like, I only know a handful of animes. I'm like, every time I spot one I know, I'm like, got you.
I know that one. I get that. I get that reference.
Like, come here. I can talk to you. And it like you said, it's family friendly. And then there is Anime Boston After Dark, and it gets exactly what you would think. And
Geek Girl Con has a burlesque show. I've always wanted to go, and I've always been too tired. Like, one of these days I'm going to the burlesque show.
Just take your kids. It'll be fine.
Well, by the time I have energy, they're probably going to be old enough to go anyway, so it's not going to matter.
They're going to see it before you at this rate.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, you want to talk geek outs?
Yeah, let's do it. Tell me your geek out. I know what your geek out is. And I feel very conflicted because I usually have a very strict moral code about this kind of thing, but now I just don't even care.
Okay, so I managed to get an advanced copy of New Mutants. Weird little backstory. One of my coworkers is actually one of the I don't know what you location scouts for movies like Doctor Strange, Castle Rock, and what do you know, New Mutants. So I have some I have some clout.
So it wasn't a pirated copy. It really was an advanced copy.
Oh no, it was an advanced copy. Like,
okay. Because I thought you were doing air quotes around advanced copies.
Oh no, I really did get it.
Oh, okay.
So how he got it, that I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to assume that everyone in the cast got an early copy.
That's a good assumption.
And I actually think that it's being released on Disney like today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is his name is wrong in the credits. They spelled his name wrong, both in Doctor Strange and New Mutants. He's bitter.
What the hell?
Marvel and him are not happy. So this movie has been delayed for 2 years. It's had 5 release dates. It has supposedly a bajillion and one reshoots. It had to readjust the budget. It's gone through a merger. It's gone through a company name change.
Jeez.
Here's the funny thing. It's the exact movie that it was originally supposed to be. Like, all the rumor mill that went around this movie, I think was literally the cast being like, we're just going to make up stuff. We need to keep the hype going for 2 years. Let's do this. The fact that they would get together at conventions, like when they did their last virtual convention, like even they were making fun of it. So
is it good? Is it what you wanted?
Okay, so here's the thing. If it had just come out in the movie theater and I just went and saw it in the movie theater, I would have been pretty okay with it. The fact that you made me wait 2 years and started like this weird campaign of like, oh, all of this stuff is being improved and we're adjusting this and we're including that special character that we're never going to mention. No, none of it's in there. Nothing.
Oh my God.
So Josh Boone originally wanted to make this a horror movie, like a straight up horror movie. And he got greenlit for an R rating, which, you know, doesn't happen in superheroes other than in Logan. And he was like, okay, let's go balls to the wall. It does a good job. However, you can tell the studio, and he even said this, was like, whoa. We thought you meant a little bit of horror. Like, pull this back, pull back.
Oh.
And you can see there are several spots in the movie where if they had just gone a little bit further, it would have gone there. It definitely has horror elements. It reads as a horror movie. It just reads as a horror movie with superheroes. It has a lot of promise. It just doesn't get it. It's basically a lot of foreplay and no climax.
That is so frustrating. Oh my God.
But what is good about it is the cast is Maisie Williams is Rain Sinclair, Anna Taylor-Joy is Magic, Charlie Heaton as Sam Guthrie with a horrible Kentucky accent, might I add.
Shit.
Henry Zaga as Sunspot, Blue Hunt as Danielle Moonstar, and Alice Braga as Cecilia Reyes, who is completely miscategorized, whatever. But fine, I'm over that. It's an origin story of a group, and no one knows who any of these characters are in not the people outside of comics. So they had to introduce them, and they were really smart in how they did their backstory. It doesn't take over the movie. It's not an origin movie.
Okay.
The problem is Danny Moonstar is the primary character, and everyone already knows it's the Demon Bear plotline. But at the end of the movie, you're like, what did she do to this plot? How did she rectify anything? You were literally the most useless character in this.
That's just disappointing. Oh my God.
So it pulls on her culture's mythology, which does impact the story quite a bit, but she literally doesn't do anything. We don't even see her mutant powers. Like
What?
She got treated like a plot device, which is
Ew.
unfortunate. But there is some good stuff. Ilyana Rasputin is the biggest bitch in the universe, and I loved it. She's not Colossus's sweet little sister. She is after she's gone to limbo and become evil, she is that person.
Nice.
And she is, oh my God, like, and she even says some stuff where you're like, ooh, you shouldn't say that. Like,
you're deeply
you're in trouble. You're going to detention. If you look at the plot too hard, the plot falls apart. But it had lots of good little moments. So I'm not going to give it a great grade. I would watch it over, for my order, I would watch it over The Last Dark Phoenix. I would watch it over Apocalypse. I would watch it over X-Men First Class. And I would watch it over X3.
Ooh.
But I'm saying that for other people because I would watch X3 over X2. X2 sucked for me. I would put it up. It's in the top third of X-Men. And let's be honest, it was a better send-off for the X-Men franchise than any of the last X-Men movies. So the bar was lowered a lot. So
yeah, especially with the last Dark Phoenix and the Apocalypse. Those two, I was like, what the fuck were you people thinking with those movies?
And I honestly think if the studio had stayed out of Josh Boone's way, I think it would have been a much better film. And he had always slated it for a trilogy, and the next movie would have been batshit bonkers and awesome.
That's disappointing.
And then the third movie would have been just everything I wanted it to be and then some. Because he wanted to do an X-Men New Mutants crossover for Inferno.
Why? I get so frustrated when studios get in creators' ways. It's like, no, you're the business people. They're the creators that you hired to tell a story. Get the fuck out of their way. And seriously.
It again, I think if it hadn't gotten in the way, I think it would have been better. But it's still worth a watch. If you're an X-Men fan and you enjoy just superpowered people doing superpowered things, it's a good movie. And there's a side character that is in it that isn't mentioned anywhere. I didn't see it in anything. that when I saw it in there, at first I was like, oh, fan service. And then it's actually part of the plot, and you're like, oh, you should have led with this. People would have gone to see this movie just for that.
Do you want to tell us what it is, or do you want to?
It has to do with Ilyana Rasputin and her badassery.
Fair enough.
So yeah, go see it. It is worth a watch.
Okay.
So what are you geeking out about?
So it's a little different for me this week. I watched the documentary on Netflix, Here I Am. It's the documentary about Dolly Parton. And I know Dolly Parton, for some people, she's kind of a big joke. But first of all, just let me say, I'm not a really big fan of country music at all. But I really like Dolly Parton. I've always liked Dolly Parton. 9 to 5 is one of my favorite movies of all time. That theme song is one of my all-time favorite songs that can put me in a good mood in a millisecond.
Random trivia. Did you know that that's actually her fingernails at the beginning of the song?
Yes, because they talk about it in the documentary. That's how she wrote it. Like, she actually just recorded it like that, which so you find out in the document. First of all, the documentary is just so sweet and lovely. Dolly Parton, known for big hair, known for big boobs, known for being silly and all that kind of stuff, but she is seriously one of the most shrewd, intelligent, ambitious, stubborn businesswomen I think I have ever seen in my life. First of all, her charity has given away tens of thousands of books to children in Tennessee through her literacy programs. She used to have a production company called the Sand Dollar, and among other things, it produced Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And her production company is one of the reasons why that show was greenlit in the first place, because they put money up for it, and then they kept it going. So thank you, Dolly Parton, for nothing else, for giving us Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the Scooby Gang. She never came right out, and to this day she never has come out and said that she's a feminist or that she's pro-LGBTQ. But if you listen to her songs, particularly the songs that she wrote in the late 60s, early 70s, there are a lot of feminist themes in them. There are a lot of things that she did and said that, while not coming out and saying, yes, I'm a feminist, they were in and of themselves very feminist. She is a supporter of the LGBTQ community. She fully embraces the drag queens that love her, the gay men that love her, and there is apparently a ton of them that come to her shows. She's been invited to drag contests in her honor, and she goes and she loves it. She's incredibly self-aware. One of the things the documentary talked about is that, so they had Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. They were talking about her, and Lily Tomlin said something just brilliant. She's like, yeah, it's an act. She's like, but it's also Dolly. And she's like, if there was a line between public Dolly Parton and private Dolly Parton, she says that line is now very blurry. She says, but Dolly's very much aware that she plays a part. The minute she walks out of her house, she's playing a part. And Lily Tomlin was like, I have never seen her without a wig. And then Jane Fonda, who's one of the very few people that's ever stayed at her house and met her husband. Dolly Parton's been married for over 50 years. Some of her bandmates had never met her husband because she keeps her private life incredibly private. But Jane Fonda was invited to her house and spent a weekend there. And she said the minute Dolly Parton took out of her bedroom, she was in the wig, she was in her makeup, she was fully dressed. Like, she's never not Dolly Parton when she's around other people. And which sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, also like where Lily Tomlin's, what she said about it is like those lines have kind of blurred, so that maybe like the public persona is a little bit more actually Dolly, and the private persona is kind of edged in on that public persona. Maybe, I don't know, but it just, this documentary was just so fascinating. Like, she talks about going to country music during the 60s at a time. I mean, country music, was incredibly misogynistic. You know, the music industry in general was, but country music in particularly was very misogynistic. And here's this little blonde woman coming in, and she says outright, she's like, yeah, they think I'm dumb, but fine, that's on them. You know, she's just like, forget it. And at one point, they show this clip of Barbara Walters interviewing her, and Barbara Walters says, well, don't you think people think you're a joke? And she's like, well, of course they do. But she's like, the joke's on them. If they don't think I'm in on it, well, I am. I've always been in on the joke. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're so self-aware. It's just beautiful and brilliant. And so I don't know. It was just this kind of like light and fluffy and delightful little documentary that it's like cotton candy. If you just need something that's light and fluffy and sweet, and it doesn't make your brain think too hard, I would highly suggest it. If you've been a fan of any of Dolly Parton's music or movies or anything, it's really fascinating the way that she has constructed her career, her ambition, her stubbornness. She's written over 3,000 songs, first of all. Apparently, she can write a song in like a bathroom trip. Like if she's under pressure, somebody was like, I've seen her go into a bathroom with a Sharpie and some paper and come out with half a song. I was like, holy crap. So yeah, she's incredibly prolific. Yeah, I think she's brilliant. I think she's probably the smartest person in the room, and nobody else knows it, and she's just fine with that. Like, she doesn't care.
Jolene is one of my favorite songs.
I love that song. She wrote it because a teller at a bank was flirting with her husband when she was on the road. And she ended up having a fight with the woman who was redhead for trying to steal her husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew that. So there's a really cool, I don't know if it's a YouTube channel. I'm not sure what it is. But they do like, you always look up like, what does the song mean?
Yeah.
Well, they do like 5 to 10 minute long episodes where they like do deep dive into a song and
cool.
How it comes about, how it was made, the meaning behind it. They interview people who were involved in the process. And 9 to 5 was one of them. And when she was like, the beginning of the song needs something, and then she did the nails, and they're actually her nails doing a washboard.
I know.
Like, that is so weird, and I'm now captivated.
It's so incredible. Apparently, she wrote 100 verses for that song because she just kept going and going. And she says, making a movie, she's like, you're sitting around, you're waiting. She's like, sometimes I would only do 2 lines in a day, and I'd be waiting around. And she's like, I'm an antsy person. So she's like, I would just start writing verses. And apparently they brought in a bunch of the extras from the movie to do background singing for the song. And I was just like, that is so freaking cool. But yeah, she has to be moving all the time. So she like wrote 100 verses for the song just because it was fun. Just
oh my God.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll write my book.
I know, right?
Because it definitely is not happening anytime soon.
Oh my God.
All right. We are going to take a short break, and then we will be back to talk about some independent films.
Desperate to read a great cape and cowl story but unable to find any on Amazon? Want a new anti-hero to love to hate? Need some women heroes in your super team rotation? Superhero Fiction is here to help. With over 300 curated superhero books and counting, you're sure to find the novel that will scratch your itch. Unless, of course, that itch is a radioactive spider bite, and then, well, you're on your own. Superherofiction.com. Real fans read.
All right, and we're back. Funny story, the commercial you just heard is by a gentleman named Todd Downing. Make sure I'm saying the name right.
It is, yeah.
And the first video that we're actually going to talk about is one he created for a band. Actually, let you talk about it. You know them.
Well, there's so Todd Downing and my husband Dan Heinrich, they produced Todd Downing directed a music video for a band called Kirby Crackle. And Kirby Crackle is a geek rock band. You can find them all over the place, and I highly encourage you to do so. Their songs are all geek inspired. They're so much fun. And one of the ones that they did is called On, and it's about Wolverine. And it's got a great story behind it. And Todd got together with Kyle, and they talked it over, and they decided to do a music video. And so they shot it over either 1 week. It was like a weekend and some change for pickups and things like that. And it's a lot of fun. It's about Wolverine. It's about how every day is just the same. It's on and on and on. He gets hurt. He gets wounded. He loses people that he loves. He doesn't get the person that he loves. It's got some great cameos. There's Rogue, Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, Scott Summers, and who am I missing? Oh, and Colossus in there. Then I think you've got for villains, who was it? I always forget who it is with the claws and then the gun.
It's Sabretooth and the Hand are the ninjas.
Yes.
Oh, no. Yeah, the Hand.
Yeah.
The gun, I assumed it was Viper.
Probably, yeah. I always got it mixed up with Deadpool, and Dan's like, that's not Deadpool. I'm like, well, I don't know.
The funny thing about it is, again, we're not going into this saying like these are rock star budgets. These are indie made. So my favorite part of it is a good chunk of it is shot in kind of a really dark lit room, and it's Wolverine just staring in a mirror. And the reason I like it so much is because you see the same scene over and over again, where he's bleeding, bullets are popping out of him, and you see like he's all slashed up. He's just always bleeding.
Yeah.
And it's the monotony of being Wolverine.
And that's the point of the song. It's over and over and over again.
I thought it was just really smart, because people who read Wolverine, like, if you read it, there's a lot more nuance to it. I'll say that. But if I was just to discuss it with a regular, someone who doesn't know Wolverine, they would be like, so basically he loves someone, they get killed, he goes on a rampage and repeat. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the music video.
Yeah.
How many times did we see him throwing the roses down on a grave? How many times do we see him like running through the woods all bloody, or fighting the ninjas all bloody? It's just like the same thing over and over again.
And it's kind of funny because every time it's him at the cemetery, I'm thinking, which one would this be? Like, I'm going through all the dead women in his life.
Yeah, exactly.
That entire cemetery is probably ex-girlfriends at this point.
Yeah. What's funny is I remember being on set for some of that. My oldest daughter was still a baby in arms, and we visited the set a couple of times. And so when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that day. We were there, we were doing this. And oh yeah, I remember shooting out in the woods, and it was raining, and I had to take the baby back to the car. And like,
my only beef, he needed more hairspray.
It did keep falling.
It was raining out, and he's like running through the woods and stuff. So keeping that iconic winged hair, it's kept coming down.
Yeah, and I vaguely remember our hair and makeup department being just like Aquanetting the crap out of his head, and it just wouldn't stay.
I don't think hair can withstand the Northwest at all.
No. But I do if anybody loves the X-Men, watch it just for the bar scene. Honestly, that's my favorite. I absolutely love you've got Rogue and she's got her arms thrown over like Nightcrawler and him, and they're drinking and they're talking, and you get Scott and Jean having a tiff because Scott's a jerk. And like, I just love that whole bar sequence. It's just one of my favorites.
And we're including all the links to these, so definitely check them out.
Yeah.
So the other thing the bar scene made me think of, so in X-Men, the bar that they go to, like, that gets destroyed like 18 million times, is called Harry's.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that my bartender in my last book is Harry because of X-Men.
Nice.
So there's little subtle X-Men slide-ins in there.
Well done, sir.
Do you want to talk about Zero Issue?
Yes, let's talk about that next.
Okay, so Zero Issue is a mockumentary that was done by the New York Picture Company. They reached out to us to let us know, like, hey, we made this film, like, check it out. Which was, you know, we were just like, oh, we're so popular. So we really did get excited about that. So
yeah, we're a little too excited, probably.
We get really excited at fan mail. So so the whole premise behind this is it's only about, was it like 35 minutes, 40 minutes?
Yeah, right about 35 minutes.
So the whole idea is, in this town, they do kind of like a Comic-Con. So superheroes are everywhere. Like, literally, the opening shots, they're just flying everywhere. They're just everywhere. And this small little town has a superhero get together, and part of their conference is a superhero talent show, like a pageant. And you're thinking like, oh, that would be kind of interesting. Except these heroes are not the heroes you want on your team.
No.
These are all
they're the D squad.
They're the D squad. They're the last line of defense that lets you know we're all screwed. And it's done in a mockumentary. So it opens up, you find out that this used to be a really big thing for the town. And ever since, like, their heavy hitters have gone on to join super teams, it slowly descended into this. And
it's not pretty.
It's not pretty. So the New York Picture Company is a small kind of improv-ish type group. They have like their core people, and this was one of their bigger endeavors. So the overall plot to it, I kind of liked, or the concept I really liked. So
yeah.
One, if you haven't figured out, I like things that mock other things. I just do. The moment I saw a mockumentary, I was like, ooh, intrigued. And there are some spots in it that I did stop and giggle. Spots.
They were few and far between for me. And honestly, I feel like there was a nugget buried in the plot that would have actually been a way more interesting story, personally.
So one of the things that I wondered about it was, so essentially what you find out is this organization that runs this talent show they're struggling. It's slowly falling apart and dying from the inside out. And the town's like still grasping at it. It's had its heyday. It's done. But one of the townspeople is determined to win the talent show. And to make sure that he gets the best spot, he sponsored the whole event. Just so he could have a seat at the table during planning, because he's stacking the deck in his favor. And
he never lets anybody forget it.
Yeah.
Like every chance he gets.
It's a constant reminder. So, and then the talent show happens, and then I won't spoil the ending piece to it because there is a kind of nifty plot twist to it. But I almost wonder if the mockumentary piece of it actually got in the way of the plot.
Yeah, so the thing is, when you do a mockumentary like what they were trying to do, you are inviting instant comparison to Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy and their films. And that is an exceptionally high bar to clear. I mean, to even get close to clearing. And I would agree with you. I think that going the mockumentary style was a huge mistake. I think they should have done more of a linear type story about the guy that wanted to win it. And I think that would have been a lot better.
I felt the mockumentary was strong at the beginning because of interviews with like the historian and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But then after that, it kind of stopped being a mockumentary.
It just kind of felt. The problem is like I didn't really care about any of the characters. That was the problem. I didn't find any of them really interesting enough to care. Well, I'll take that back. The one I did find really interesting, and this is only because like it was one of the few chuckles that I had, was the guy that was like, he named it and he's like, ISIS. And no, I'm not changing it. So don't ask. And then he's like, no, we have to change it. There are kids coming. Like, I thought he was really funny. I wanted more of him. I wanted to know more about him. But he was really like just a secondary character to this other guy.
And his humor was, again, and that is the joke. It's in the preview, so that was kind of the first thing that popped up in my head when it came up, is whatever the name of it is, and I forget off the top of my head, it winds up, the acronym is ISIS.
Yeah. And
he's looking at it and he's like, I'm not going to change it. And I'm thinking, oh, that's me right there. That's me. We're doing this. And then he's like, oh, crap, there's children. Take it down. I'm like, oh, God, that is me. That is so me.
Well, and he's just such a non-character in some ways, but in other ways, I'm like, you're actually the one I want to know more about. Like, for some reason, it humanized him enough to where I'm like, oh, no, who are you? What is going on in your head? But he was kind of the only, well, I wouldn't say that he was the only one. The other one I really was interested in that was very underdeveloped was the woman character, the vigilante character that ended up kind of winning it all and didn't want to win it all. I was like, why didn't she want to win it all? What happened? Why is she giving this attitude? Like, we didn't get any backstory on her, and she was really interesting, I thought.
And I thought if you took out the mockumentary part and you gave more time to the main character, who he does actually have superpowers. He's one of the
one of the few, actually, besides laser eyes or whatever the hell his name was.
No. I do have to admit, I did snicker at the key lime. So
the guy that made the key lime pies.
Yeah, so he's basically the Green Lantern, but the only thing his ring can make are key lime pies.
That was brilliant, actually.
And that is the level, like, that I needed that level of absurdity through the whole thing. For me, the person who stole the show was the professional damsel in distress.
Oh my God, that was funny. Yeah, my baby.
And the fact that something bad happens and just out of nowhere, she just starts screaming.
Like, yeah, I know.
Trying to shine.
She's not even in danger. And the thing that really did make me laugh is like she feels like her career is about to take off because her competition, the like #1 damsel in distress in the country, is now dead. So now it's like her opportunity to like become #1, and I was like, okay, that's delightfully weird. Like.
And the fact that she sets up a little obstacle course to like show her skill.
I know, but she's not really using the obstacle course. Like, that was the thing. She never climbed the ladder. She didn't go around the cones. Like, she fell so gently, like on the mat. I was like, that's not really going to work.
And so your main character actually has the ability to move things with his mind. Barely.
Yeah.
Barely. And so we've seen in, I'm never going to remember the name of the movie. There is a movie where the kid gets telekinetic powers and he holds the camera up. And so it's...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
And then it's really well thought out how they use shaky cam to their advantage. And so that does that in this film. My problem was you have these other characters who are like a 10 in the absurd level, but the main character is, I wanted him to be absurd. I wanted him to go that distance.
Yeah, he needed to be more interesting than the other characters. He needed to have that real specific kernel of humanity. I didn't care that he had invested all this money because now he really wanted to make it and be number one, and he felt like I didn't care. There wasn't that little bit of humanity that I needed, that connection with him, or even mystery that a couple of the other characters had. And so for him to be the main character, it was just like, I don't really care about your arc here. I don't really care about why you want this.
And because he's the main character, he got in the way of these other really great little elements that I think if you pulled his plot, I would have been just perfectly okay just watching the pageant for an hour.
Well, and I think you just really hit on something. Like, you had two different stories here. You had somebody's descent into supervillainy, which was the main character. Sorry for spoiling it, but I actually think making him a supervillain right off the bat, having it be, I'm so sick of this, they don't treat me with any respect, I'll show them, have that be right up front, and have it be just his plot is going, and you're like, holy crap, what's going to happen? And then it just all falls apart. Like, that's way more interesting. Or just have it be about the pageant. Don't try to combine them both. It just didn't work.
You know who I kind of wanted him to be? Dr. Evil.
Yes.
Like, that level of stubborn, I'm going to be evil, but I'm going to miss the mark everywhere across the board.
Yes. That would have been so much more interesting, honestly. Or just have it be all about the pageant. Like, have it, pick 3 contestants and have the movie be about those 3. Have it be a true ensemble, mockumentary style kind of thing, like Christopher Guest does. That would have been a lot more interesting. And
we were talking earlier about the kind of nifty thing is, I walked into this like thinking, it's a small company that's putting together a film, and there's special effects. The special effects aren't bad.
I was super impressed, actually. For a small indie film to have that kind of FX, I was impressed.
The only thing there were, and again, I don't think it could have been better without like upping the budget to the next level. The all metal woman.
Okay. Like, that didn't work.
That
was obviously body paint. I wanted to believe that she was made of mirrors, but I just couldn't.
Yeah. But to do that, here's a whole buttload more money required.
She would have to be in it. You'd have to have motion capture. She'd have to be in like a green suit, and you'd have to like, that's just a whole bailiwick.
And the key line, I needed it to be there for a second, because all it does, and I guess in hindsight it is kind of funny, it just it doesn't even come out to like be something cool. It just falls onto the ground.
Yeah, it just splats. Like, it's like a slice of key lime pie. It just splats on the ground, and everybody's like, ooh.
I do want to know how many key lime pies they went through to make that.
I would be very curious.
Honestly, job, bring the pie.
I think if you want something that's just really out there and different, and you can really just, you don't really care about the plot, you don't really care about this, go ahead and give it a watch. I mean, it's not gonna. You could turn it off after 10 minutes if you don't like it or anything like that. But I mean, really, the show stealers are the ones like Key Lime and the one I forget her name, but she just has a name. She doesn't even have a superhero name, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I wanted more of her.
And then
also, Wonder Dog was just a delightful little what the hell.
there were a couple moments where you were like, I get you, like you're a mockumentary, but weird.
Yeah, they actually I was impressed that they were able to bring Wonder Dog back around. Like, I thought it was a one-off joke, and it wasn't. Like, Wonder Dog saves the freaking day, and I was like, all right, well played.
And the other thing that I thought was kind of funny is there is a character that at first you only see him in the background. What are they doing? Are they drinking and he passes out?
I think so.
It's in the background. And I always pay attention to the background characters because it's interesting to see where people spend money in a film.
Yeah.
There is a very Ghost Rider-ish looking character. And
oh yeah.
The special effects were better than the actual Ghost Rider movie. Sorry.
Agreed. Yeah.
So,
no. And watch it with friends. I would recommend watch it with friends on FaceTime if you're not comfortable having friends over. Watch it with friends, have a drink. It's probably better with other people. Like, I watched it by myself and that was probably a mistake. So watch it with friends. We should probably anyway. Yeah.
So we're gonna move on and we're gonna kind of keep with the small thing. And the next one we're gonna talk about is actually a fan-made film called Cable: The Chronicles of Hope. And it's by a company, K&K Productions. And it is, there's good and there's bad to it, but it's the movie I want. There is some stuff in this movie that just Marvel, like Fox, fix this. So the really quick plot is Hope Summers gets born. No one knows anything about her. We still don't know anything about her. Cable needs to raise her, so he takes her to the future, and Bishop, who now is evil, surprise, goes after her. And now they've come back to the X Mansion to figure out, they know what to do to try and fix the timeline because it's Back to the Future apparently. And so the story starts. They appear in a really nice building, and at first I didn't realize it was the X Mansion. I'll be honest.
I didn't either. I was like, "Is this an abandoned building? What the hell is this?"
I thought it was a hotel. I was okay, mental ward. What's going on here?
It did look like a mental hospital. Oh my god.
It wasn't until they mentioned the hangar that I was like, "Oh, now this makes sense."
Yeah.
And that's not on them. That's just me being really dumb.
No, they actually though it was not set properly. It didn't look like a house that had been inhabited at all. It looked like an abandoned building that people squat in. And so if you're going to do the X Mansion, even if it's been torn up, do the X Mansion a little bit torn up. It didn't go well.
And all they needed, you could have clued me in really fast, have a knocked over wheelchair in the corner.
Yeah, perfect.
I got you.
Yeah.
Or show some battle signs of obvious powers, like the Wolverine snick.
They did have that in the hall. There was one point they had it, but it was really subtle. You had to really look for it. But that was it. And then there was blood. It looked like blood stains elsewhere, and I was like, okay, what the hell just happened here? That was it. So you didn't see burn marks from Scott's visor or anything like that.
Yeah, I needed a little more connected on that one.
Yeah.
But the only people who are in this film are Cable, Hope, who, again, it's Hope, Nightcrawler, Bishop, and the Purifiers, which are crazy religious zealots that think that mutants are the end of the world and whatever. But it was a really, the fight scenes were decent.
Yeah, they were good. The effects were really good.
So Cable, gunfire everything. Hope, gunfire everything. Purifiers, machine guns. The blood. Every time they cap one of them in the head, I was like, huh, that's a pretty good blood splatter. Like,
no, it was the squib work was very nice, but also the camera work during the fight scenes. I was like, oh, it was very well done. It looked very professional.
And it looked like they could actually do the things they were doing.
Yes.
The scene where Hope rolls in on him, like grabs onto him and rolls down to the ground with him.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell where the camera work adjusted to make it work. But like she flies through the air and she hits him with her knee and takes him down, and you see the whole thing. I was like, oh, you actually can do some stunt work. Like, bravo. Yeah. The only thing at this point that was just Cable's voice.
Actually, just everything about the guy playing Cable.
He just, and I guess Cable in a weird way, like 90% of the time, he's just staring off into the distance, thinking about like his dead family.
Yeah, but I think about Josh Brolin playing Cable. And like, no, Cable is not an interesting character. Cable is one-dimensional and boring. Josh Brolin was able to give him a little bit of something. Like, I don't think you have to work that hard to just play a decent Cable. But this guy, I was like, oh, just stop. Don't. Just stop.
And
don't.
And you didn't quite feel that he cared about Hope.
No.
Is like his crazy, like, only mission. Like, he's dead set on that, which kind of got lost, but I couldn't get past the voice, the dropping to the octave.
Honestly, though, there was a couple times you looked at her, I'm like, are you going to cook her and eat her? Because you're looking at her like she's a steak, and that's a little uncomfortable for me.
It's kind of your daughter or your sister. I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
Summer's timeline, family tree.
Yeah. The acting, don't watch it for the acting. Don't watch it for the cool special effects, the cool fight scenes, the it's very atmospheric. I really appreciate the atmosphere of it.
And the best part of it is, so Hope is on the ground, she's about to get her brains blown out, and all of a sudden we see a blue something fly around the dude, and then he's gone. And then there's Nightcrawler. And granted, again, it's not prosthetic work, and I'm not going to say Hollywood level body paint, but
no.
I kind of was okay with it. He did look a little emo.
He did look a little emo, and we talked about this before we recorded. Like, there was one point in his hands, we actually saw the seam of the oven mitt that they had around his hands, which was very distracting.
Yeah, you can tell they did not do this to do practical effects makeup work. That's not what this was.
Yeah.
The Nightcrawler takes them down into the hangar, and it's a CGI room, but it's a big open space. And there's like 8 or 9 purifiers there.
Yeah.
And the martial arts mixed into the teleporting was so good. Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
If you just cut that out and made it its own thing, I would just say perfection.
It reminded me of Alan Cumming in, I think it was, which X-Men movie was it where the opening 2? So that was like the only good part about that movie was the opening scene with him going into the White House and kicking a bunch of ass. And like the fight scene with him phasing, fighting. That's what this reminded me of, but there was more martial arts to it, and it was a little bit grittier. It was a little more, I don't know, it felt a little bit more risky, like he's running towards the bullets, and it was really well done.
The actual martial art component to it wasn't this graceful, elegant, very mixed martial art. Like, someone sat down and said, if I could teleport like that, and this is how these powers worked, this is how I would blend it to fighting. Whereas I felt in X2, it was much, much more about the teleportation and not blending of the two. Don't get me wrong, Alan Cumming rocked that scene. I mean, not that Alan Cumming actually did it, but whatever.
We can dream.
Yeah, we'll pretend it was. Sorry, stuntmen everywhere. But that one scene, bravo.
Like, I mean, yeah. Actually, that one alone, you're right. That alone is worth the watch. It's actually not that long. It's 7 minutes. It's got it has some great effects, to be honest.
And this is done by a production company that essentially they're showing off their special effects skills. And once you know what their target is, you understand, like, yeah, it's not worth doing the makeup on the hands to get the hands looking correct. That's not what this was about.
Yeah.
So, like Cable's arm, I honestly don't know how they did it.
I bought it though. I was like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, you got a full metal arm. I don't know how you guys did it, but I'm okay with it. And then the last scene with Bishop, it was the Bishop I always wanted.
I don't know that character, so I'll take your word for it.
He's in Days of Future Past, and he's not bad. Just this is the Bishop. So
the Bishop.
Good cast call on that one. So absolutely check that out. I just want more Nightcrawler and everything.
Yeah, just don't watch it for the acting. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Don't do it.
Yeah. You might even be able to put it on mute.
Oh my God, yeah, that's actually a really good call. You don't need to know the dialogue. You really don't.
And only real X-Men fans would even get the story in its entirety, because
I was a little bit lost until you started talking about it. I was like, oh.
And that's kind of why I liked it. It was like, oh, you know I read that comic, so
yeah, you gotta be in the know.
I did my homework for this. Our last one is my personal favorite, and it's been a personal favorite for a long time.
It's been around for a while.
So it is Wonder Woman by Rainfall Films, and it came out in 2013. So the Wonder Woman movie was not thing.
But this was, people were clamoring hard for a Wonder Woman movie, and then Rainfall was like, here you go. Here's our concept trailer.
And this was shortly after the Wonder Woman TV show. Remember that pilot that they threw out there that...
Can we just forget that ever existed? Because that was just a train wreck.
And so that went out to someone thinking this is a good idea and this is passable. And it was horrible. Like, just, I've only seen a 30-second clip of it, and that's all.
The pilot?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen an extended... I went to a talk about Wonder Woman, and they had like 30 minutes of it, and they showed it in this. It was a day-long talk, and they showed it, and I was like, "Dear God, this is horrible! It's horrible."
It wouldn't have even passed on the CW.
No, it was not Wonder Woman. I was like, I don't even know what they were trying to do, but that TV show was not Wonder Woman.
And if you were... So anyways, the bar was set so incredibly low.
Very low.
And then Rainfall came out with this, and it's a 2.5-minute film. I mean... It's
mesmerizing.
So I need to know who the actress is now.
So, and the thing about this film too is, if you look at the costuming, which I noticed this now post Wonder Woman film, the costuming in it is very similar in a lot of ways to the costuming that Patty Jenkins and the costumers decided to do for the Wonder Woman film. And it is very impressive, actually. The actress is okay for what they have her doing. She is perfectly fine. There is no heavy lifting in terms of emotional requirements here. It looks like she's primarily a stunt person, and so the fight scenes are very well coordinated. The effects is very well done. A little bit dated in the city scenes, maybe, but the Themyscira stuff still holds up, in my opinion.
The only thing that I thought was lacking, and I'll agree with you on the emotion. I don't think it required her to go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
I don't think... I mean, she's good. I'm very happy with it. But, like, all it needed was like before the fight scene, like the sly smirk of "I got you," or
Yeah,
like,
something.
it needed a little bit of that. I guess the playfulness that sometimes comes with Wonder Woman.
Yeah, agreed.
But the costuming, like, was the costuming for Jenkins' film already out? Because this is like dangerously close.
It's they have her in this cowl and I don't want to say cape. It's more like of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a robe-ish.
Like a robe kind of a thing. And I saw it watching it now. Like I haven't seen it in like a year or two. But I watched it this afternoon before we started recording, and I'm like, holy crap, is that the same costume? And I was like, no, it can't be the same costume. It's so similar. It's really incredible. And the one thing I remember loving about this when I first saw it, and how I still love it, she's not hypersexualized at all. Her like the top of her breasts are not spilling out of the top of the bustier like you see in some iterations in the comics and stuff like that. Same thing with Gal Gadot. Her costume does not hypersexualize her. Neither one of them. They're strong. They're obviously there for armor. They are fantastical. There are Grecian elements in like both this short and the Gal Gadot one. The lasso looks like a real freaking lasso that you would use. I mean, the production design on this 2.5-minute short is incredible. It's really, really good.
The only thing on her costume, and this is to be picky, the tiara. And I guess it's not even her tiara. I think it's just a woman wearing a tiara and trying to pull it serious. It's
Yeah,
a sell.
it is. Well, and it, yeah, I mean, that is the one thing. Patty Jenkins updated that for the movie, and it works so much better now. But it was an iconic thing. They just kind of went with the basic kind of tiara. I actually didn't.
I think they would have needed metalworking skill. Like,
yeah, I did love her bracelets though.
oh yeah,
there was etching on it. I mean, it was just, and you don't even see them that much.
I
just like that one shot, and that's it.
The skirt, the pleating of the skirt.
Yes,
like the
that leather work.
Yeah, someone knows someone from that.
Yeah.
And so the whole premise is there's no plot. There's none. There's no plot here. There's some bad guys in a city. She stops them. Oh, there's a quick flashback to Themyscira and the Minotaurs. I just love their concept of the Minotaur.
Oh my God, yes.
They're
huge ass
hulking things that are slowly walking through the water towards the island.
Yeah, there's mist. They're coming through the mist. It looks like there's fire behind. I mean, it's everything I would want in Themyscira, in the Themysciran battle with Wonder Woman. Like, it was brilliant.
And the scene from Jenkins' Wonder Woman that everyone knows is that iconic crossing the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's that moment of that, for me, it shows willing to go the distance, willing to, put yourself in danger. And there's a certain rightness to the stoicism involved. And what I really liked about this film is right at the end, she flies. She starts to fly. She's levitating up off the ground.
Yeah.
When the camera's looking down at her, you get that, damn, this woman's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it's over, and you're like, no, where's the next one?
When it first came out, I just watched it 5 or 6 times in a row, and then the next day I watched it 5 or 6 times in a row again. And it was because it was the first time we got a modern day iteration of Wonder Woman that was, I mean, it's incredible. In 2.5 minutes, they have got the mythos of Wonder Woman. They have her heart, her courage, her strength. They gave us Themyscira. They gave us, gritty, fighting the bad guys anywhere. They gave us the Minotaurs. I mean, it is really impressive storytelling, honestly.
And they told the story where it needed to be told, and then just it's almost like they sold us a feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you watch Jenkins, the movie it's a great movie. How about we just dial it down to just that one scene, and you'd be like, I got the essence of what I needed. We're good.
Yep.
And that's
That
kind
is
of,
this.
it was
Yeah.
distilled Wonder Woman in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it was. And it also was, I remember people talking about it as, see, this works. You can bring Wonder Woman to the screen and it works. It still took them for fucking ever, like, what was it, 4 or 5 years after that to bring us a Wonder Woman film. But, yeah.
And so I just really want to recommend, like, we're indie authors. This is what we do. We are not part of the Marvels or the DCs. Like, we're not part of big publishing companies. And so, like, take a chance on some of these indie things.
Yeah.
You like them for weird reasons, or you don't like them for weird reasons, but there are people out there that love these things so much that they're like, hey, friends, I know what we're doing this weekend. And they go for it. And there's some horrible ones. And even some of the bad ones, I'm like, you're geeks. I love you. Like, I just love the fact that you're like, this is what you do, and you're LARPing X-Men.
Yep.
My respect.
And then you film it. You film your LARPing. Absolutely.
The honorable mention, I didn't make you watch it because it's a lot longer. There's a really good one with Storm.
Yes, no, I have seen that. You sent that to me. That is an incredible one.
I just really like it because the whole plot takes place in Lynn Alley.
Yeah.
And it didn't need to be more.
It's a little horrifying. I will say it's got some disturbing imagery.
Oh yeah.
In it. So it's a darker version of Storm, but man, am I here for it. Like, seriously, bring it.
It is 1980s Storm.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like,
that last shot, I was like, oh my God, give me that, please.
And I would rather watch that movie than Storm. Sorry, Halle Berry. Get out of my X-Men movies.
Yeah. Not Halle Berry's fault, but yeah, I got to agree with you. That was a better Storm. We will include the link to that honorable mention. You check it out. If you're at all a Storm fan, watch this fan film.
And the actress,
she's pretty good.
You don't get like years of training to do this, so I was satisfied.
I didn't need it to be, Oscar worthy. She was good. She was fine.
It sold me on a feeling. Like,
yeah,
if you're not going to be the best actor or actress out there, sell me on a feeling, and I'm along for the ride.
Exactly.
Again, this is why I keep recommending so many horrible films to Trish.
And so far, I keep watching them. One day, that will not be the case.
I'm telling you, you need to watch Final Girls, and I can redeem myself finally.
All right.
Or The Night Watch. Those
we'll
two.
See. Okay.
All right. So our question of the week, kind of going super simple, but kind of in a weird, deep, introspective way. Of course, I don't have it on my screen. So, why are you a fan of superheroes?
Ooh,
like,
that's a good one.
It feels like it should be a super. We've been asking the authors who write superheroes why.
Yeah.
And it feels like it should be an easy answer, and then you're like, oh, this.
It's actually not.
I'm gonna go take a shower and have a deep moment, and.
Yeah. No, it actually does require some thought. So write us a comment on the podcast. Go to Superhero Fiction Readers on Facebook, and you can answer the question of the week. Let us know.
And that's the show.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
We'll be back in 2 weeks.
To stay up to date with the Geekorama podcast, you can watch our videos on YouTube or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a review or hit the thumbs up button. New episodes are released on Thursdays for podcast listeners and YouTube fans.